Good evening. I'm John Bledsoe, and I'm excited to present to you my research on the local food movement. First, I wanted to let everybody know that I completed a qualitative research study, and my starting point was not to identify if the local food movement exists. I wanted to talk about why it exists and why it's important. So, a little bit about myself. I work in marketing for Farm Credit in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our mission is to serve the rural and agricultural populations in providing financing for their needs. And I grew up in eastern North Carolina in a rural area, and I was surrounded by agriculture. And I've always been very interested in the industry, but wanted to serve outside of the industry in marketing. Um, so, with regard to the local movement in recent years, there's been a groundswell of support to get away from the Walmart mentality where everything's in one big box store. The emphasis is on quick and cheap. And with food, people are becoming more aware of where their food's coming from, how it's produced, and the benefits of those various approaches. So my research and this presentation is going to talk about a number of different subsets of the study, and then I'm going to, in the end, bridge the information gaps together for you to talk about why I believe that the local food movement craves connection more than anything else. So again, we're going to open up, we're going to talk about local food. What is it? It's people desiring an authentic experience with the foods that they eat, not wanting mass produced, industrialized foods. Local food is about sustainable agriculture, it's about sustainable practices. It's about something, just think of like eating with the seasons, taking what nature makes available to you. And then again, the local food movement proudly features the farmers that grow the food. It tells their story. Let's look at some trends in agriculture and the United States population. In the 20th century, farming was not very technologically advanced. It was very labor intensive, and it took place on small farms where 50% of the U.S. population lived. So in those times, half the population lived in rural areas, and most people were farmers. Now, 2% of the population in America are farmers. They have less available acreage to tend, and there's been major population shifts. You remember where we said that over 50% of the population lived in rural areas. Now that number is 19% of people live in rural areas. So this means that there's less people in agriculture, of course, but our efficiency has skyrocketed. We live in the most food safe environment in the world. And the point that we often make in the ag industry is that in 1960, the average American farmer could produce enough food to feed 26 people. Today, the average American farmer can feed 155 people worldwide. That's incredible efficiency by the farmers today. The next thing I want to talk about is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Many of us in our studies are familiar with this pyramid because behind everything that we do is a need that wants to be satisfied. The top three needs in this hierarchy are basic physiological needs, our safety and security needs, and our love and belongingness needs. Food contributes to each of those three. We require food in order to live. We need safety and sustainability in our food to maintain that life that we have. We need to be safe and secure with where our food's coming from. And then, have any of you guys ever heard of comfort food? That love, that belonging that our food creates in us. Food takes us on so many different adventures, and we have so many different recipes and things that we carry forth in our lives. So food contributes to our love and belonging. The next thing I want to touch on is relationship marketing. This occurs when connecting with people is the forefront of a business model. It's investing in customer relationships and understanding the value of the communication. In the local food movement, it's the communication between farmer and consumer. Labels on food. I did a section on labels on food, and that's really where this research started. My wife and I go to a lot of different restaurants, and we see this portion of your food was grown locally in small town North Carolina. Working in agriculture, I know somebody from whatever town that may be. I may know a farmer in that town. I can see those people through the words. The words on that menu speak to me. Labels influence the decisions that we make. Food also serves as a connector. As vast as the number of ingredients that there are in the world, that's how many different food stories there are to tell. Connecting with friends and strangers about a great meal. How many of us will go online and look at different reviews for restaurants and meals? That's how we go out and eat now. It's all about other people's experiences. So we can talk about the ways that we travel around the world and the various food cultures that we come into contact with. That's all a part of the local food movement. At this point, I've probably got your head spinning a little bit. I've talked all over the place about a number of different things. So right now I want to bridge that gap back together to tell you why the local food movement matters. You've been introduced to the local food movement. You've heard a little bit about agricultural and population trends of where we've been and where we are now. And the most important thing that I found in the study to remember is that human beings are wired for connection. Our God made us to be in community and to be connected with other humans. So yes, our population has shifted away from the rural area, from our agricultural roots. Remember, over a large amount of the population were farmers just a century ago. And the local food movement is stepping in to fill that gap in the relationship and the connection, to meet those core needs that Maslow describes, to engage us in relationship where we make our purchases, to make that farm and that farmer in small town USA mean something to us when we see it on a menu. The local food movement connects us through the stories and the memories that we share of our food. How many times have we thought about that recipe that our grandmother made? How many times have we thought about how synonymous turkey and Thanksgiving are? We're connected to our food, and food's a wonderful part of how we tell the story of our lives. This is why the local food movement matters. We crave the food that farmers produce, but what gives us that second wave of nourishment is the connection we get by linking ourselves to other humans. With my research, I conducted interviews of North Carolinians. Many of them have had family members who farmed, or potentially a couple of generations ago. Many of them specifically noted that knowing the people who grew their food impacted them. It helped them to think back to their ancestors. It connected them back to their agricultural roots. Many of you may know someone who farms or may have a family farm in your history. Knowing and interacting with the farmers who grow the food can help connect you back to your roots as well. Food not only nourishes our body. The most important thing that I learned in this study is that local food craves connection in humans, and that connection helps to nourish our souls. That's why the local food movement matters.